Since we have such a hope, we are very bold.
Hey, what's going on? Steve Teel, Very Bold Radio and Podcast. Man, I think this is a first in, I've been doing this for a while. I've been doing Very Bold Radio for like 4 years, and before that, Beacon Radio for another 3 or 4 years. I don't feel like I've ever had an attorney on the show, so it's pretty exciting.
Out. Yeah.
I've been missing out.
I'm excited.
I've been missing out. All right, this is Todd Marquardt. I practiced that name over and over. No, I'm just kidding. Todd Marquardt. Did I say it kind of close to it?
That's it.
Your website is very helpful because it says just Mark and Quart.
Like a quart of milk, yeah.
Quart of milk, right.
A lot of people call me Mark because they don't
think that's
listen
your
to my
name?
first name. I say Todd Marquardt, and they say, "Oh, nice to meet you, Mark."
Yeah. How do you correct them? How do you handle that?
It depends on whether I want them to remember me or not.
Who do you not want to remember you?
Well, do you remember the show Parks and Rec?
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
of course.
Ron Swanson
Yeah.
had this line where he said, every once in a while I call somebody by the wrong name on purpose just so that they know that I don't care about them.
Oh my gosh.
I don't do that, but that's why, some people call me by the wrong name. It's
You're
not
just
a
like,
big deal.
That's fine.
Just let them go.
Just let them go. All right, I want people to know you. You were a blessing to me. You had me on your show, Talk Law Radio, and you interviewed me about all things very bold and all of that. I want people to know you. It was really cool. After I did that interview, I got a text from a pastor, Abden Garza, who just was singing your praises of what a great lawyer you are. Todd's great, and which inspired me. I'm gonna get an appointment for my wife and I. We're gonna be with you to set up a will. So yeah, I appreciate that in advance. I probably should ask your fees before committing to that, because now you're just gonna set the fee wherever you want. But I want people to know you, and one of the things I was asking about, this may seem like a strange place for them. If they know me, it's not strange at all, but there's a connection when I ran in, I don't even know how this came up, but Jennifer Fox, Alamo Heights. I guess it's because I knew that your son played baseball.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned it, but
Yeah.
it was very humble, just like I mentioned, I know the baseball coach at Harlan, or whatever, I met Jason, and you said, yeah, my son played baseball, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
And I did not come away with the impression that this son of yours must have been quite a stud baseball player, because you were very humble about it.
Well, he was, but like most of us, our faith walk takes turns.
Yeah.
When you least expect it, and so it was my belief that he could have played in the big leagues someday. He had planned to go to college. He did all the right things. He was healthy, all 4 years of high school, and his fastball kept getting faster, and he had 3 or 4 other pitches as well.
Wow.
That he could throw for a strike. And so all the schools noticed, and he got offers to go all over the country.
Give me an example, Mr. Humble, again. Like what schools like?
Well, I think Wichita State would have been our ideal school, because both of the coaches there not only played Major League Baseball, but they coached Major League Baseball before ending up at Wichita State.
Yeah.
But if you know anything about that area, there's not much there other than the school.
They have a cool kind of old town that they've redone, but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot in Wichita, Kansas.
Well,
no offense.
The people of Texas did a really good job at brainwashing my children into never leaving the state. He said.
So they did go to public schools, yes.
He said, I'll go anywhere as long as it's in Texas.
Wow. Okay, good for Texas.
And so he was supposed to go to Incarnate Word.
Yeah.
And he had a full scholarship there.
A full scholarship.
Yeah.
They don't give those out in baseball.
No.
That's amazing.
No, they gave him they offered it to him. I guess it was the beginning of his junior year, and that they said he was gonna be the centerpiece for his class.
Yeah.
that he was going to be like the leader of that pitching class. But I won't go into why he didn't end up there because
Okay.
I'll get very upset.
Oh, man. What does that
But
mean?
but anyway, Thomas is happy.
Okay.
He's going to junior college, and he's focused on, you know, some career in the outdoors.
Okay.
All of my children ended up in very different places than from where I would have ended up.
Really?
I'm sort of a boring guy. You know, my oldest son, he was ready to move out of the house when he was 12.
Okay.
You know, he
okay.
was that confident.
How many kids do you have real quick? Just
Three.
So
Three.
Okay.
Reagan's the oldest, then
Okay.
Thomas.
Okay.
Thomas, his first word wasn't mama or dada, it was ball.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I was always just rolling the ball across the floor to him.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just something I did. And he always wanted to be outside.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't me.
That's not you?
I was always reading, you
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
And then my daughter, she's an athlete too. All three of them were, and
Okay.
I really wasn't.
You were not
Everybody
an
in my
athlete.
family,
Interesting.
I come from a family of athletes, but I wasn't much interested in it, and I did play because my dad wanted us to be well-rounded, and so I ended up on golf.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I played for the high school golf team
Where was that?
in Alamogordo, New Mexico.
Okay. Yeah.
But my focus was on music.
Oh.
And so that's the one thing that my kids and I have in common. We all played the alto saxophone.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. My wife played the clarinet, and we did band all 4 years of high school. And then I also played for the Texas Tech going band from Raiderland.
Really?
Yeah. But I didn't march the saxophone. I marched the sousaphone,
Okay.
which all my instructors thought was strange and crazy and weird because it's not usual for a woodwind player to cross over into brass. But my junior year of high school, they needed sousaphones, and they already had 25 other saxophones, and so I said, why not?
Wow. Okay. All right. So back up with what was your third child's
Oh,
name, your
that's
daughter?
Caitlin. She plays volleyball.
Okay. Yeah, she's a volleyball player. That's right. Okay. I am curious what you can tell or share. You said that faith, takes many turns and everything. So for Thomas, what can you tell us about? I know there's some things you don't want to tell us about, but as far as
Well, I'll tell you how faith shaped my journey.
I love it.
Because
Love
I was going to be a music major.
Yeah.
I was going to play in the David Letterman band.
Whoa, what?
Well, I wanted to. That was my dream.
No, I know that's your dream. Like, I've just never met anybody who that was their dream.
Yeah.
Like, how did that happen first?
I watched the show.
Of
They
course.
had a screaming saxophone on there that was just awesome. And my first semester at Texas Tech, I think I changed my major two times. So I was supposed to be a doctor
You were going
because
to be a doctor. Okay.
my granddad was an eye doctor, my dad was an eye doctor, and so I said,
Wow.
well, I couldn't pass piano because, I don't know, my brain just couldn't get my two hands to work together at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, maybe I can be a doctor. And then I kept forgetting to go to my chemistry lab. It was only once a week, and it was like Wednesday afternoon, and I'm sitting in my dorm room thinking, oh no, I'm supposed to be at that lab again. And so I ended up having to take chemistry 3 times.
Third time's a charm.
Just trying to get a better grade each time.
Yeah.
And I fell into this government class, political science, that I really liked.
Wow.
And so I thought, well, this is more interesting to me. I'll just see where this leads.
Just from taking that one class.
Yeah, it was all about setting up the first government. You know, you're a people of tribes. How do you draft a constitution to bring people together?
Yeah.
And there's different ways of doing that, and that was really interesting to me.
Wow. So from that class and just being interested in it, you decide at that point you're going to change majors, or you decide?
Yeah, I did change majors. I didn't know what a person could do with a political science degree. I didn't realize until later, after I graduated from college, I went to work for the state land office in New Mexico, in Santa Fe. I was the legislative liaison there.
Okay.
And I didn't really see anything exciting that the government workers for that office were doing, but my desk was actually in the general counsel's office. I didn't work in that department, but that's where they had a desk, and he was doing a lot of oil and gas stuff, and I don't know, I just said, well, maybe I should go to law school, and so I applied everywhere. But while I was working there, I met the general counsel for the New Mexico State Police.
Okay.
And I told her I'm applying for law schools, and she said, well, you have to go to St. Mary's.
Really?
In San Antonio.
Wow.
And I said, oh, okay, well, I'll apply there too. And what I didn't know is that the dean at the time, Bill Pyatt, he was also from New Mexico.
Oh.
And so it was his habit to try and recruit students from New Mexico. And so when I came to St. Mary's to visit and talk to the deans, and everybody was really nice. Now, I'm not Catholic.
Uh-huh.
I'm Catholic light. I'm
You're
Lutheran.
Catholic light. You're Lutheran, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I appreciated being there because I didn't realize how hard it was going to be.
Okay.
My college experience was relatively easy. You know, if you show up to class, you do the homework, you take the tests, you can get A's.
You go to lab if you go to lab.
That's right. But law school was different because you have to compete with the other students.
Really?
So even if everybody gets the same, if technically your answer is correct, well then everybody's going to get a C plus.
Okay.
You can only get an A if you write your answer better, more clearly, or more logically sound or reasoned out. And so that was hard. It took me about a year and a half to figure that out. And after I did, I did a lot better. But the whole process of just, you know, trying to accomplish something I had never done before, competing with my friends, that brought me close to God.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell us about that while I cough. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, just praying, you know, for patience, because at the same time, I had 2 young children.
Oh man, this is an adventure.
Yeah, so I would come home and they would think it was time to play, but really it was time for me to continue studying.
Oh man.
And so it was hard for all of us, and I just prayed a lot. And that led me to go to different people at my church, Shepherd of the Hills, and just say, hey, I feel like I need to be doing something. I don't know what that is. And so they would introduce me to various roles in the church. About the same time, I had an opportunity to go study the law in Austria.
What?
At Innsbruck.
What?
And so I went there, and
so the whole family goes? I don't know.
No, just students. My wife will tell you how upset she was about that.
Oh man.
Leaving her with the small baby and the young child.
You're still married. I just want to make sure you're still married.
I don't think about these things. I had the opportunity, and so I went.
Wow, your wife is a saint.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's Lutheran also, or Saint Light, but.
So when I was there, I don't know how it came about, but I would run into these different European people on the train or at restaurants, and I would stumble into a conversation about God.
Really?
And at,
Huh.
at first I was really upset about it because they would say, I don't believe in God. And I would say, how can you say that?
Yeah. Wow.
You know, the creator of the universe is listening to you right now.
Yeah. Wow.
And so
That's good,
I would tell them that, you know, I believe Jesus died and paid for our sins,
Yeah.
and someday he's going to rise again, and so will we. And they would just say, I don't believe that. And then that was like the end of the conversation.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, so I went away feeling like I had failed in my duty to evangelize.
Yeah. Yeah.
But later, just by continuing my faith walk and study of the Bible, going to church, it seems to me that sometimes you just plant a seed.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that maybe that was my only job, and
Right.
so that I feel okay with that now.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. All right. So, but that was a part of your faith growing.
Right.
Was talking about it, and I mean sharing with people, even though they just ended the conversation. Yeah, I don't believe that. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long were you in Innsbruck? What are we talking
I was
about?
only there for 6 weeks.
Okay. All right. That's a pretty good chunk of time.
Right.
Yeah. Your wife still deserves some sainthood.
Yeah, and you know, I was lost a lot.
You were lost a
And
lot.
so I would just pray, you know,
Yeah.
God, you know, I don't know where I am. Please
Yeah.
help me find something that I can get my bearings on. Help me to get off the train at the right time.
Wow.
I was lost on the train one time, and all my companions were somewhere else, and you know, just by a miracle, I get off. They're there with all my
What?
bags. They weren't happy that they had to carry all my bags, but God saw me through
Wow.
some strange incidents over there in Europe. And so all of this has sort of led me to somehow try and use my faith or try and evangelize because of my faith.
Wow.
Starting my own law practice, that was an adventure that I didn't know that I would be on. I prayed, God, do you want me to continue to work for this law firm where I was before, or do you want me to start my own law firm?
Yeah.
And then I got fired, so that kind
That
of
answered it. Yeah. Wow.
showed me the direction to go. And in law school, they don't teach us how to run a business.
I imagine not. Yeah.
And so it was hard to figure things out, like overhead and payroll taxes.
Yeah.
And so I feel like God, I couldn't have made it this
Yeah.
far without his help, because I was destined to fail from the beginning without having the right education and skills and tools
Right.
to run a successful business. But my dad always said, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
And that always happened.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So when did you? How long ago was it that you started your own law practice?
In 2009.
Man, that's not that long ago. I feel
Yeah.
like. Okay.
Well, it's been a tough
bet.
13 years, you know.
Yeah. Man, tell us. Was there a point where you felt like you kind of turned a corner? I mean, starting a startup is hard, like you said, and you had to learn all these other things.
Well, I have this internal drive that won't turn off.
Really?
And so as soon as I get comfortable, then I start something else.
Okay.
And so I'm always in a state of discomfort.
Okay.
And then, I don't know, maybe God likes that, because that's when I rely on him the most,
Yeah.
is in a state of discomfort.
So at a certain point, I mean, so you got it going, and then you felt like God was then saying, okay, now do this or whatever. You're just always ready to kind of do a new thing.
Well, some things that I try don't work.
Okay. Me too.
I've,
you and me both.
I've had satellite offices in New Mexico. I had another satellite office in Georgetown, Texas, and I poured tons of time
Okay.
and money
Yeah.
and lots of resources into those things. And I just couldn't get it to take off. And
Okay.
so, at some point I just say, I'm going to do something else now. Well, in 2019, I was sending out letters all over town, all the media,
Yeah.
saying I'm going to do this elder law seminar at the education center. And I get an email from Barron, who used to work here,
Yeah.
and
Aaron Wiley.
he
the man.
said, gosh, anybody that's writing letters probably would appreciate radio.
That sounds like Baron Wiley.
Yeah. Well, I had a couple of years before that, a few years before that, I had done a show with JJ and Bobby
Okay.
here at 9:30 a.m.
Okay.
The Answer.
All right.
And I only had a 12-minute segment,
Yeah.
but I was like, man, that was awesome. And
Yeah.
then it just sort of went into the background, and
Right.
I
Right.
moved on with practicing law. So when Barron said, hey, you could have your own show, I thought, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he tested me out, and I said, yeah, I could do this every week, I guess. I'm not smart enough to know what all the problems are that are going to come up. If it sounds good, I just try it and hope for the best.
Yeah. And it's working pretty well.
Yeah, I've done 3.5 years now,
That's,
136 unique episodes.
yeah. That's phenomenal. Well, and I know, and I want to give credit because we share a producer, programmer, engineer, video director, all these things. The marksman is what I call him here. And and I know it's amazing to have him for us. So I know it's got to be the
Yeah.
same way for you. Him taking care of everything. He's sitting there. He can't clean up for Facebook. Sorry if you're on Facebook and my coughs are just going crazy. But he will clean it up for the podcast. They'll be gone. And so anyway, collectively, we say thank you, Mark, and happy belated birthday. Appreciate you. The Marksman.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So Talk Law Radio. When can people listen to that? That's Saturdays.
Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. On AM 930. The Answer. We're on AM 630. The Word. So I get the 930 a little confused. But yeah. So what else has God got for you? We got a few minutes left still.
Well, my passion for the radio show is to talk about the law, to
Yeah.
help people discover the legal issue blind spots that they might be missing.
Yeah.
But also, I like to talk about the gospel.
Yeah.
And I've had a really hard time finding pastors to join me on the show.
Okay.
If you're a pastor and you're brave, please join me. We'll talk about an issue on the radio that both hits the law and the gospel.
Yeah.
So I like to talk about the federal law, the United States law, also Texas law, and then switch gears and say, what does the Bible say
Wow.
about this? So some of the shows that
Yeah.
I've done before
Let's hear.
have been the law and gospel of divorce.
Oh, wow. We were just talking about that.
Yeah, with Pastor Dan Mueller. He's a retired pastor from Shepherd of the Hills.
Okay.
And the law and gospel of what happens at end of life.
Wow.
With another retired pastor, Patrick Erickson from Garland, Texas.
Okay.
I've talked with Pastor Phil Doublestein, who is the pastor of Brooks Church and also the interim director at the Lutheran Inner City Network Coalition.
Cool. Yeah.
And so I've talked with him about the law and gospel of charging interest.
Wow. Crazy. That's awesome.
The law and gospel of estrangement,
Yeah. Wow.
and the law and gospel of abortion.
Oh my gosh. Dang. Who'd you have on for that?
Well, I just had him,
Okay.
and
Oh, I gotcha.
so we went through the decades-long legal history of abortion rights,
Yeah.
and then of course he talked about what the Bible says, and even confess that, sometimes it's hard to talk about that
Yeah.
subject when people have passion on multiple angles
Right.
to that.
For sure.
And so I was nervous about doing that show. I
Yeah.
didn't know if people would call in and
Right.
say nasty things about me. Sometimes they do that on Facebook.
Oh, what fun. What joy.
But that's what I like about Talk Law Radio is talking to people from the community, other lawyers in different areas of their expertise, and talking to pastors and just bringing both perspectives. This is what the law says, this is what the Bible says, and hopefully, like you prayed about prior to our show, hopefully we reach somebody somewhere.
Right. Yep, I know you do. And I want to say as we close that I'm giving a shout out to my pastor in New Braunfels, Jason Powers. He would be great on your show. I didn't, the day you interviewed me, I didn't think I was like, oh yeah, I need to think about that. And he would be great. So I'm shouting out Jason Powers. And so I'll reach out to him and say, man, you need to be on. He's got some good things to say. You'll have a good time. He's very happy that the Astros won. He is a baseball guy all the way. So anyway, well, we're going to sign off. I'm going to go run over to Alamo Heights, and I'm blessed to talk about Jesus over there with some students for Curios and 2 times. I'm very excited about that. And then later today, I'll be at Johnson High School with Coach T.P. Miller, talking to them before they get ready for their playoff game. So, man, this has been a fun-filled day for me already. It's just great, and Todd, having you on has just been awesome. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to remind you, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're listening to the podcast or listening on AM 630, The Word, I really like what Todd talked about just in terms of that discomfort of God putting new things on his heart, new things to try, and that resonates with me. Sometimes things that I try, they work, sometimes they don't, but it's always exciting and you're always learning something. So I want to invite you, just maybe that's not quite your personality, but maybe there's something, just some discomfort that God is calling you to do, to reach out to a neighbor, to reach out to someone that you're estranged from, to forgive somebody that you don't want to forgive because you're comfortable in your unforgiveness. There's all sorts of different ways. Or maybe God is planting a different thing on your heart. Or maybe like me, after talking to Todd, I was like, man, I need to set up an appointment to talk to Todd. So it could be all sorts of different things, but I just encourage you to listen. And the way to listen is to kind of start with just the hope that Jesus has given you, the way he loves you, what he's done for you in the past. He's been faithful. He's going to be faithful again. That's just the way he is. But think about those things. Sometimes you just have to stop and think, wow, God did that. That's right. God got me through that. God got me at the right train stop. I mean, we build up those things to build up our faith. So I want you to think about that. And then you can go and say, okay, Jesus, I want to be very bold. How can I step out of my comfort zone? What do you want me to try? What do you want me to do? So I'll sign off with this, and you can email me, steve@verybold.com, steve@verybold.com. Don't forget about Talk Law Radio. TalkLawRadio.com is the website, I believe. It's got more information about Todd, and he's got a website about his practice as well. I didn't even go through his credentials, man. He's got all sorts of credentials. Texas Rising Star lawyer, year after year after year, all the accreditation, great man, and man, you want to know him. You need to know good attorneys, and Todd Marquardt is one of those, so that's good. Anyway, Apostle Paul, he wrote this in 2 Corinthians 3:12, and this is how we sign off. Therefore, since we have such a hope, we are very bold.
Therefore, since we have such a hope, we are very bold.